I'm back. I've been on YouTube for years since the inception because being a musician, a rapper, producer, entertainer, I needed that platform to showcase my music. But one thing that I never did on YouTube is I never would go live because I was always live on Facebook or something else. But I'm gonna start going live on here, man. I like this energy. I'm inspired by Kwame Brown, the basketball player, because I like how he just kind of gives his life. And the great thing about the YouTube platform, different people follow Facebook. Only certain people follow Facebook. Only certain people follow Instagram. Only certain people follow these different social networks. But YouTube, everybody's here. So I'm gonna be here, y'all. Start following me here at this YouTube page because all my thoughts and all my expressions and these things I'm feeling about life, because I'm sure y'all want to hear a different perspective. It's gonna go down. I'm speaking it. This is my history. I got a lot of videos, I got a lot of pictures, but I gotta start talking and giving my opinion about these things and documenting these things for life so that my family and my fans and everybody understands my experience and what I'm going through. So with that being said, I want to specifically talk about the 50 years Detroit hip hop anniversary. Now I'm from Detroit. I live in Houston, in the Houston area now, more or less in the country of Houston, out on the outskirts of Houston, but I still claim Houston because it's 30 miles from where I live. But I like this country living. But I was invited to come and be a part of the 50 years of Detroit hip hop. And oh man, I wish I could have been there. My grandsons, I didn't get the notification till last minute. I'm not in the city, so everything that I see about going on in Detroit hip hop is always through social media. So if I'm not in direct communication with some of the powers that be, I don't know it. So at the last minute, I was told that I was nominated as one of the top 50 or artists in Detroit hip hop history, and I'm so thankful for that. I've been checking it out online, and I'm so happy for all of the Detroit rappers, man. I have nothing but positive things to say to these Detroit rappers, man, because I've been there from the start, y'all. I've been there since 1980. 1980, y'all, I was listening to the Sugar Hill Gang on the radio at my grandmother's house. I remember me and this cat named Anthony Foster, who I went to school with. We were listening to the Sugar Hill Gang, and that's 1980. And then by 1983, I was a full hip hopper. You know what I'm saying? Run DMC. I knew that's what my life would be. I knew that's what I wanted to be. So I've been seeing hip hop in Detroit from its inception. I've been there. The middle school talent show. 1984, I was in that shit and I was performing, and I know at that talent show I was going to be a rapper. And look at all of these years later, I'm 52 years old, y'all, and I'm a rapper, producer, artist. I've toured the world with Public Enemy. I've produced for Ghostface Killer. I've worked with some of the greatest Detroit hip hop artists in the game, from Proof. I've had studio sessions where Eminem came to my studio early in the game before we even knew he was the real Eminem. That's hip hop, y'all. And to see all of these guys get these accolades in Detroit with Detroit hip hop this past weekend, it's just amazing, man, because in Detroit, hip hop didn't start until late. For the simple fact is because we didn't have that radio network to service us with the hip hop. You follow what I'm saying? I remember in the 1980s, we had Electrifying Mojo. And FM 98, they was only playing Planet Rock or Kraftwerk or Detroit dance music, techno, and so it really didn't highlight what was going on in hip hop. So if you were in hip hop in Detroit, you had to go through the back channels. You had to see it on a TV show, or you had to kind of go to a record store. And the only thing that we could see was the biggest rap we could see was Run DMC. So that was our example. So through these years, Detroit hip hop has evolved in this, and now we've got one of the greatest rappers of all time, Eminem, quote unquote, by many powers. Come on, man. I'm not no big Eminem fan, but the guy is one of the best who ever did it. I can't front. I'm not gonna say he's my favorite rapper, he's my favorite lyricist. I'm gonna say he's one of the best that ever did it, and you can't front on that. Neither can I. But Detroit hip hop is so much more than Eminem. You know, there's groups like Chaos and Maestro and Awesome Trey. Those were my inspirations from the Detroit hip hop movement. Watching groups like Chaos and Maestro, I thought they were the baddest dudes in the city, man. Awesome Trey, he was cool. Awesome Dre, I liked Awesome Dre. But the one thing that about the Detroit artists, we all had our own sound, right? So I was more on the East Coast sound. The difference between why I couldn't get into Detroit hip hop early, as far as motivational wise, is because Detroit beats were different than what New York. We were creating our own beats off of keyboards and Yamaha. We weren't using those samples in Detroit hip hop. So if you come all of these years, 50 years later, 40 years later, however many years later, to become one of the top cities where hip hop, from Jay Dilla to guys like my favorite rappers like Guilty Simpson, to my group MF911, to myself, Ant Lod, to so many of the other artists who've come through the city, it's an incredible thing, man. I worked on Detroit radio in the early 90s at FM 98 WJLB as a co-host to the Bushman. In 1995, we still wasn't on top of hip-hop. Hip-hop was not our thing. So, and what do I mean by not our thing? It just wasn't the big promotional thing in Detroit. So after all of these years, for Detroit to come and evolve and to end up like this, and with the 50 years and all these rappers being able to pay homage on stage with some of the greats and being recognized with the greats in the city yesterday, or was that Saturday night with the 50th anniversary of Detroit hip hop, and you had Dougie Fresh, KRS-One, and all of these greats, and then you had all of the Detroit rappers. I've been watching and following online. I wasn't there. Man, it just made me feel so good that I was a part of this, and I was a part of the city that was able to accomplish something this big. You know, Detroit, we've been through a lot, man, from crime to the city's finances, to the ups, the downs, to gentrification, to the rebuilding of the city. We've been through a lot, man, and I've been here in Texas for 15 years, y'all. I'm 52 years old. So about 16 years. I moved here in 2007, but I always stayed a Detroiter, because when I tour with Public Enemy and so many of these other greats, the first thing I'm always screaming, like, I'm letting everybody in the stage who don't know me in the crowd know I'm from Detroit. What do we say when we from Detroit? What up, though? So everywhere I went and everywhere I toured, everybody knew what up, though means. So I'm just thankful to be from Detroit, y'all. It's a big thing, and I'm happy for all Detroit rappers involved. Detroit hip hop lives. It's going to continue to live, and we're going to continue to change the plateau and the level of the game. Peace.